click on that community link, go there and get into the Conscious Endurance community. And in there, I've asked folks what they wanted to learn about. There's all kinds of different things that I know that I've done over the course of my life, and from mindset and motivation to yoga to mindfulness to endurance training and nutrition and all kinds of stuff. This month is the month of endurance training. So today is episode 7 of this little thing. 7 weeks we've been going strong, and it's endurance training month. So last week we talked about why become an endurance athlete, or what does that even mean, right? And ultimately a 10K could be an endurance athlete for someone who's never run before. 10K, 6 miles. At the same time, commonly referred to endurance as, could be anything, a marathon or beyond a marathon. So ultra marathons, obviously, Ironman, climbing Kilimanjaro, which I've done, is an endurance event, to say the least. A week-long endurance event. So that's, just a short thing about who I am. And so my question to you is, have you ever decided or ever thought that you were incapable of achieving some sort of feat that you wanted to do? Let's just say, because we're talking about endurance training, what that was, right? So maybe it was a half Ironman, full Ironman, half marathon, a full Ironman, or full marathon. Maybe you wanted to do an ultra marathon. Whatever it is for you, did you ever think, oh yeah, that might be super cool to do that? But then life got in the way. Life gets in the way sometimes. We don't like it when life gets in the way. We want life to go our way always. But the problem with that is that then we don't learn how to actually overcome these obstacles. So today's episode is going to be all about getting comfortable with the uncomfortable, with being uncomfortable. And that's one of the things that endurance training is all about. So if you, like me, have been one of those people that's thought, oh man, it would be really great to go, climb a mountain, ride a century ride. I mean, I had a client who had never ridden more than 40 miles, and I trained him to go full 100-mile. We did the Solvang century ride. And it's an amazing accomplishment, an amazing feeling when you do something that seems so far away and so far out there, and then you actually put the steps in one at a time, one pedal stroke at a time, one swim stroke at a time, one foot in front of the other, and eventually you get it, and you get to look back. I mean, now I'm turning 50 this year, and if I look back at the highlight reel of my life, a lot of it is about these big trips that I've taken or these big races that I've done. And besides, my wife and my family and my kids and that kind of stuff. But from a personal athletic standpoint, those are the things that are for sure on the highlight reel. So what highlight reel are you creating for yourself? That's one of the things that we want to do, is we want to create these great lives. We have, roughly a century. If you're part of this community, you definitely have a century to figure out, or more hopefully, to figure out how you can create the best life. So one of the things that I find that happens with a lot of folks is that they'll say, oh yeah, I always wanted to kind of do that. Wow, that was really cool. I always wanted to do something like that, but they never do it. And this is what I want to tell you. Don't die without doing it. Don't die without doing something that's really going to set some fire underneath you. It's funny, I have a lot of friends in the exercise world, as many of you know, but some of these guys just don't like doing it. Like, it's like pulling teeth. Why? Why? I don't want to run. I don't want to bike. I don't want to do pull-ups. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. And I just think to myself, why do it? If it's really, I understand you want to do it because you're going to be healthier and all that sort of stuff, but find something that you love to do. And then you're going to want, like, I love running, and I want to go run. I get up, not every morning, but most mornings, and I go, oh man, it'd be great to go for a run right now. And I have a friend, my friend Steve, and his mom goes, why do you guys run so much? why do you run so much? I don't understand it. Or so my father-in-law was like, what are you running from? But the thing is, when you love it so much, you want to do more of it. So that's what I want you to do, is find, some people are swimmers, some people love riding their bikes, some people love running, some people love rowing. Whatever it is for you, find it. Come up with some, hike or something like that, and start to do it. Now, I wasn't always this way. For me, I struggled in the beginning. I started doing yoga back in the mid to late 90s, and I gave up all of my exercise. I gave up running, I gave up going to the gym, I gave up lifting weights, anything like that besides yoga, and that's all I did for almost 3 years. And it was great because I gained a bunch of flexibility and got to the point where I thought, well, I can hold Warrior 2 forever, so I probably need to add a little bit more. And that's when I started to add a little cardio. And I added 2 miles, just 2 miles, a couple times a week. That's it. That's all I wanted to do. And then later, and you might have heard the story before, then my friends kind of suckered me into doing this marathon. So I did my first marathon in 2000 without getting into the long marathon story. But then that ignited something in me. And this is something that I wish I could just put in a little jar and give to everyone. And that is, when I crossed that finish line, as painful as it was, I thought, wow, if I can do this, I can do anything. From a fitness standpoint, right? From a physical fitness standpoint. And that, I think, is one of the most important. If you can somehow realize that if you can do something, then you can do anything. That's the mentality. That's why no matter what there is out there in the world, whether it's, a 100-mile run or a 100-mile bike ride or a full Ironman, like it never scared me to do an Ironman. There was never any fear of doing the Ironman. I just thought, I just have to train, I have to do what I know I need to do, and then I'm going to go do it, and that's it. And I hopefully enjoy the process, which for me was 11 and a half hours of not exactly pure joy, I wouldn't say, but it was definitely pleasure. It was definitely, people used to ask me too, why do you do this stuff? And I said, because I get a 3-day Shavasana. I used to do adventure racing, and adventure racing was multi-day events, so you wouldn't sleep. If it was a 24-hour race, you would not sleep. You would race from 6:30 in the morning until whatever, 6 or 10 in the next morning, to 30 hours, whatever it was. And you just kept going and going and going. Why? Because there was a passion behind it. And that's what I want you to find, is that passion for you inside. And so going from 22 miles once or twice a week, then saying, okay, I just have to hang in there and I have to trust my training plan. So that is sort of the main idea in getting comfortable, being uncomfortable, is you have to trust the training plan. I had a long conversation with my friend the other day about Zone 2 training. Zone 2 training is, where you go slow, and you're kind of building this engine inside. And then you also do faster workouts and things, but eventually that Zone 2 training is going to help you perform at a better level because you're ready for it. It increases endurance. And on the other side of things, I have friends who are sprinters and short distance runners. Like, why would you ever run more than a mile? Right? People on the track, they're like, why would you ever run more than a mile? I don't understand why anybody would ever want to do that. Meanwhile, these guys are Olympians, right? So to each their own, but as far as like what the actual sport is, but regardless, that idea of putting yourself in a situation that is going to be challenging and preparing for it. So the thing, like the 3 kind of main things here are, you trust your plan, right? If you hire a coach, you hire me, you hire a coach to help you get either to the top of the mountain safely, in a healthy way, to get to the finish line. Like, I think I might have mentioned this once or twice before, but my goal as a coach for athletes is to get them to cross the finish line in a healthy way with a smile, right? I mean, that's the main That's the main idea of all of this, is to be able to stop and go, wow, I can't believe I just circumnavigated New York City and all 5 boroughs on foot. I mean, it's when you start doing things like that, it changes your whole world, right? And it doesn't need to be, and I'm just speaking from an endurance standpoint because that's what I know, but it could be anything for you. Hiking the Pacific Crest Trail. And, we're here in Southern California, in Malibu. The Backbone Trail, right? I mentioned that before. 67 miles, 15,000 feet of climbing. I have a friend who actually I haven't seen in a while, but she hiked it in 3 days and camped out in little campsites along the way. But what a cool experience. She'll remember that forever. Oh, I remember hiking the Backbone Trail. So you have to be creative and come up with these experiences. And the world is big, so there's lots of different places to go. There's lots of different challenges to be had. You don't really need to go anywhere besides your own neighborhood to find something, to create some sort of way to be uncomfortable that will challenge you, that will get you kind of learning how to suffer. That's sort of the second thing. So you got to, again, whether it's a coach or you just go download a training plan on the internet, and then you trust that you build, right? There's like a little strategic sawtooth build to a training plan where you work for a couple of weeks and you recover for a week, or work for a couple of weeks, recover for a week, or work for a couple of weeks, recover, and you push until you get to the point where you feel like you can handle it. When I did my marathon, my Boston Marathon qualifier, commonly referred to as your BQ, my Boston qualifier, I was running easily 50 miles a week or more, but I would run 8 miles, 10 miles, 15 miles, and over the course of 3 or 4 days. And I just felt so good and so strong, and I would warm up after 4 or 5 miles, and then I would start going a little bit faster, and by 8 or 9 miles I was still totally fine. I could run 10, 12, 14 miles, and I would still go about my day and have my sessions and do whatever I was doing for work. And it was such a great feeling to be that strong. That's another thing. Depending on where you are in your life, if you can trust your plan, learn to suffer a little bit, and you can get to the point where you're tapping into that strength and you feel really confident, that is an unbelievable feeling. And I remember I used to work with the BMC racing team, which is a pro cycling team. No longer exists, but all the guys are racing on different teams now. And this guy, Brent Bookwalter, he's like, oh, dude, it's so much more fun when you're comfortable getting up and over the hill. Because I'm like, struggling. Like, these guys are like, see you later. And I'm like, it looks like I was going backwards hanging out with them. But eventually, you get to the point where it feels good, it feels fun. You get to kind of get up and over the hill. And most people don't get there. I mean, there's not a lot of people that are doing this kind of thing. So if you are one of those people that has that kind of ambition, the third thing that I want to mention is enjoying the ride. Because again, back to my friends who are like, I don't want to run, I don't want to, I don't want to do this. It's like pulling teeth to exercise. Like, I don't know, find something that you do enjoy doing. There's loads of people I know here in Malibu who love to hike. They're not runners at all, but they love to get out on the trails and hike. There's loads of people who love to surf. Just go out there for a 2-3 hour surf session, or go for a nice long stand-up paddle session. Whatever it is for you that makes you tick, that's going to make you feel more alive. Because guess what? In this life, if you feel like the Walking Dead, that's not really great, right? You want to do these things that make you feel like you're alive, like you're vibrant, and that doesn't need to end at any certain age. There's no age that needs to end, right? Just because you get old and you're slouched over doesn't mean you can't feel amazing, right? So 3 things. You choose what you're going to do, that's kind of before, but then you trust the plan that you have. And that plan comes with an overall training plan. You know, any training plan that I will give somebody will include yoga, it will include nutrition, it will include, you know, whatever your sport is, but recovery, like yoga, and yoga and recovery are different. Like yoga is a form of recovery, but sleep is a form of recovery, and yin yoga is a form of recovery, and foam rolling is a form of recovery, and meditation is a form of recovery. So all these things are mixed into the training plan. But you either find one yourself, you develop one yourself, or you hire someone to help you with it, and then you go about the goal. And here's the one thing about it, is every day you reinforce that goal. So if it's a trip, say, where you're gonna hike, even right here locally, about an hour away from me, is a hill called Mount Baldy. Mount Baldy, you can start it at 4,500 feet, or you can start it, I think, at 6,500, and it goes to 10,000. And so I'm going to take a group of people up there, and we're going to hike to the top of Mount Baldy. And so we pick that day, and then counting backwards, we start. Okay, you guys, here's what you need to do. You need to start hiking every weekend. It's because if we start at 4,500 elevation, and we get to 10,000, and then we go back the same way, that's going to be a solid 8+ hours of being on the feet, hiking in elevation. So, and you're gonna have to bring water and snacks and all that sort of stuff. So there's a lot that goes into, you have the proper shoes, should probably bring some Vaseline for your feet just in case you start getting blisters, all kinds of different things, that sunscreen, hats, right? All that stuff that goes into it. If it's a triathlon, you gotta have bike stuff, gears, like all gear is a whole different ball of wax. But anyway, choose your goal, trust your plan, create that plan, trust the plan, and then you're going to have to learn to suffer, whatever it is. And there is this kind of, you know, borderline masochistic sense about suffering where it becomes pleasurable because you know that it's beneficial for you, even though it hurts. You know, there's two sides of you, right? There's you, and then there's the part of you that knows there's a you. And the point is that when you're out there running or biking or doing whatever you're doing, there's also part of you that goes, I know this is good for me. I know this is good for me. And I want you to tap into the side that knows it's good for you. I don't want you to live in the suffering side. I want you to live more in the side that knows it's good for you, right? We talked about this early on, the inner coach versus the inner critic. If you're in the suffering, and it's like, this is too hard, I can't, it's too hot outside, I can't, right? And then that's gonna be your mind chatter. Versus if you're living in the, you know, this is really good for me piece. You're like, oh my gosh, this is incredible. I'm going to be able to do this. When it's over, eventually it's going to be over. And you might go back and forth between the suffering and knowing that it's actually good for you. And that's totally fine. That's part of the dance. It's part of the dance of life and the experiences that you're actually having. And that's where the third thing comes in, which is to enjoy the ride. And that's what I wish for you mostly. It's part of what I do here and why I do what I do, between the yoga that I teach and these sessions and all my coaching, is because I want people to be able to live a life that they're happy with, that they're proud of, that they can look back and say, you know, if I had to do it all again, I wouldn't change a thing. Because guess what? That day will come, right? We're all gonna die, and we're all gonna look back, and we're all gonna say, not bad. Or we're gonna say, shit, I missed out. And I don't want you to miss out, which is why I wanna make sure that we all get together, the people who are interested, and we all come together, and we all start doing things to help support each other in this way. All right, so those are your 3 takeaways for today. Choose your goal. It's kind of the pre-takeaway. Choose your goal, trust your plan, learn to suffer, and enjoy the ride. All right, you guys, that's what I got for you today. And of course, If you have any questions or any comments, please list them down below. I'm happy to help guide you in the right direction or point you to the people that might be able to help you in the right direction. And of course, subscribe to my YouTube channel and go to my website, teddymcdonald.com, subscribe to my newsletter, and click on that community link and get into the Conscious Endurance platform, and we will all live active, healthy lives for at least 100 plus years. That's my hope. Thanks so much, you guys. I'll see you next week, and that topic will probably be nutrition. It's going to be nutrition for next week, endurance nutrition. So endurance training nutrition, like what things you're going to eat, fat burning versus sugar burning, all that sort of stuff. So tune in next week. I'll let you know the time. I'll post the actual time and I'll let you know. But otherwise, thank you very much, and we'll see you next week.